Hello, everyone. God bless you. God bless you. It is Thursday. It is Thursday, and every Thursday night at 7 o'clock, we are here trying to bring you a word, not so much to bore you or to try to compete with nobody else, but I'm hoping that at some point, you start to gravitate to the way I teach and the way I present. I try to give people a perspective that's different than what they're used to or what they see on Sundays. So we thank God for you, and you. And we pray that today, God showed Himself mighty, showed Himself strong in your life, that you can realize that everything that you're going through, everything that you're experiencing, has a purpose. I know a lot of times we don't want to believe that part, but it has a purpose. And I want to. Why is it telling me I want to be an infuser when it comes to the things that God has assigned, when it comes to the things that God has appointed, that we are doing something that is effective, we're doing something that is productive, to what God is doing. We don't want to be on here just to check a box. And I know some people have heard me say it before. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we get so caught up in the repetition cycle of being active in the church and ministry and so forth, to where if you're not careful, you'll find yourself, doing what you used to do, doing what you're comfortable with doing the things that that are easy to do, and that's a good segue into tonight's topic on tonight. I wanted to illustrate this. I was waiting. I was waiting all week for this. Okay, hell, I was waiting. I was trying my best to not, and that's hard for preachers. Is trying my best not to spill the beans, to so to speak. Every time I run into somebody, it's like, ooh, I'm right there on the cusp, and I had to pull back. I had to, dial it in, as or the kids would say, I had to lock in, because I was so close. Shirley, I was so close to just, let me tell you what the Lord, let me tell you what the Lord gave me. Look what the Lord say. So we thank God. We thank God. Now, I'm very excited about this word on tonight, and I'm going to be the first to admit it stepped on a lot of my toes. It stepped on, it hurt my feelings a little bit. It hurt my pride a little bit. So don't think that I'm on here pointing the fingers at you. I was always taught that, yeah, you pointing one finger at somebody else, but you got three pointing back at you. So I'm gonna hold myself accountable, and I'm gonna do my best when I get to the parts that kind of slap my hand a little bit. Yeah, I might tell y'all that part applies to me. I don't know, but you might be able to see it in my face. We don't know. Nevertheless, we are going to give you. Again, we're going to try to give you a perspective. We're trying to give you a perspective on Sunday. For you, Sunday, I taught from the title, "The Message to the You That You Haven't Met Yet," and it really opened up a door that I feel God wants to explore a little bit more. So tonight we're going to be asking the question, dun dun dun. Is present me sabotaging future me? Is present me sabotaging future me? And that's a great question. That's a great question. And God bless you, Sister Chandra. I think sometimes it's the things that make us uncomfortable that we try to avoid. The things that we don't necessarily want to be. We don't like that feeling of someone, checking us, to so to speak. So we don't want to do that part. We don't like those type of messages, such as Shauna. We like the ones that are Daniel and the Lion's Den. And I figured it out. You know why people like the Daniel and the Lion's Den message? Because they ain't worried about being damn on the line. Yeah, they're not in there. So hey, Daniel, I'm sorry for Daniel, but that ain't me. That ain't me. I'm not in the Lions Den. I'm not going near Lions Den. I have no, So the reflection of the message takes on a different shape, a different form, and hopefully on tonight we can introduce you to a perspective that will cause you to put the two side by side, the present you and the developing you, the present you and the developing you. A lot of times, we try to disconnect those two people, but it's very important that you acknowledge that there's a version of you that God is trying to develop, and then there's a version of you that that you've created. And what I mean by that I've created is the things that I've experienced in life, the things that I've tolerated, the things that I've endured, has created a version of Greg, has created a version of Tashonda, has created a version of Harley and not Shirley. The things that you experience, the things that you were exposed to, the things that for some of us, the things that was handed down to us through our generational ancestors. Y'all have heard the saying, "It's just who I am. That's just me." Well, I beg to differ, because the Bible tells me in Jeremiah 29:11 says that he knows who I am. I'm paraphrasing. He knows who I am. So our job, Sister Tashonda, is to question, the identity that we are projecting, compare it to who God said we are. So tonight we're going to do just that. And I might make some people mad, but that's okay. I'm used to it. We're going to be coming from the book of Ephesians, the 4th chapter and the 22nd verse, Ephesians 4:22. I like it from the NLT. And it says, "Throw off your old sinful nature and your former way of life, which is corrupted by lust and deception. Instead," verse 23, "instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy." All right, so this is where we are tonight. So look in the mirror. Are you telling me look in the mirror, or you okay? Never mind. I'm sorry. Sometimes the greatest resistance to who God is trying to develop us to be is coming from the person. I'm gonna use it since you brought it up, Lady Palmer. The person that's in the mirror. Sometimes the greatest resistance. It ain't. I'm not saying y'all got pimps. It ain't your pimp. It ain't your ex-boyfriend. It ain't your ex-girlfriend, your ex-wife. It ain't somebody that hurt you. It's not, cousin or auntie or whoever that did it. It's you. You. Old people used to say, get out your own way. Get out the way. So tonight, we're going to be talking about the two versions of me. I'm going to use me, Lady Palmer, because sometimes people get offended when I use, my wife know how to cook rice, y'all. I just use as an example. But we're going to be talking about the two versions of me. So tonight I want you to imagine two chairs, okay? In one chair is the person that you are today. And across from you is the person that God is developing you to become. Not the richer you, not the more successful you, not the more popular you, not even necessarily the version of you who finally gets everything you've been praying for. Not that version of you. I'm talking about the matured you. I'm talking about the healed you, the disciplined you, the wiser you, the more patient you, the you that understands life a little bit better. That version of you, the different you. Right? The version of you whose character looks more like Christ. Because when you first started out, truth be told, we looking at the metaphorically, of course, we were all draped in the ugliness of sin. We were all draped in the ugliness of sin. Yeah, I know you used to go to the nail salon every 4 days, and I know you used to go, Shimona's Hair Glory, and get your wig split every Friday or whatever. But because of sin, you were still ugly in the demonstration of being Christ-like. You didn't look like him. But now the new version of you, or the growing version of you, the developing version of you, is supposed to look more like Christ. So watch this. So there's a conversation. And I got to read this because I want to make sure I get this right. There's a conversation that's taking place, and the present question, the future you is asking the present you questions. The future you, the person that's supposed to look more like Christ, the version of you that's supposed to be more well-rounded, the version of you that's supposed to be a little wiser, the version of you that's supposed to be mild-tempered and slow to get angry. That version of you is asking the current you, the present version of you, some questions. Here's the questions. Y'all ready for this? Lady Palmer, I don't know if you're driving or you're here or whatever, but if you could type these in the comment section so others can get this later, I would greatly appreciate it. So the first question is, let's start off with this. How would the future you approach you? How would the future you be angry? Or would the future you look at you and be like, what up, man? What up, my guy? What up, my dude? What it do? What it be like, right? Or would the future version, be looking at you with disdain and frustration? Bar, what are you doing? What posture would the future you be in if it had to talk to the current you? I need you to stop. This is what the future you say. I need you to stop doing some things, because I have to live with what you are doing right now. In other words, I need you to pump your brakes. I need you to, slow it down, slow your roll, because you, as the young kid said, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. And you're not taking into consideration that I'm going to have to be held accountable for the things that you are deciding to do now. Right? So that introduces me to an uncomfortable possibility. What if present me is sabotaging future me? Let me go. What if present you is intentionally or unintentionally sabotaging the future you? Wouldn't you be upset? Wouldn't you be mad if you knew that, I'm going to use me and Lady Palmer. She would be upset if she knew that I married her 14 years ago, only to get to year 78, 79. We get to year 79 years of marriage, and I go to her and say, hey, deuces. If the future her could talk to the present her, she'd probably say something like, girl, you crazy. Or the future me would probably say to the present me, boy, if you don't go sat down somewhere. You've been married to this woman for almost 80 years. And now you're talking about you want you a young thing. You want to find yourself. You want to do something different, right? So watch this. When we think of sabotage, that word sabotage, it brings a negative connotation, because now we're looking at it as if someone is attacking us, or something is attacking us, or something or someone is trying to hinder us from, quote unquote, living our best life. And we think about that, or very rarely do we ever think that the person doing the sabotaging is self. We want, but you know why? Because our nature is to blame it on somebody else. I would have, God, I would have come to you sooner, but this person told me this. Or, wife, I would have been faithful to you, but you hurt my feelings. And so, my boys told me that I'm justified to go and get me a side piece. Husband, I would have honored you and respected you more, but that's not how I was raised. My grandmama, my mama, my auntie, my cousin, I saw them doing what they wanted to do, and that's how I was raised. So don't be mad at me. That's just who I am. Y'all heard it before? That's just who I am. That's just it is what it is, right? So somebody doesn't want me to succeed. And for the most part, we'll blame it on the devil, right? We'll say the devil is fighting me. But what if the resistance is internal? What if the person or the thing that's resisting you living your best life, the thing that is resisting you being the best version of you is the person in the mirror, like Lady Palmer said? What if it's you? What if it's you? So I'm praying, Lord, develop me, while simultaneously saying, but don't change this or that. I'm asking God, take me somewhere I've never been. While at the same time, I'm telling him, but let me remain somebody I know. And if you can't let me remain, what's I'm looking for? If you can't let me keep a part of who I know, right? Then let me go somewhere and be accepted and received because of somebody else I recognize. We don't want to be in a place that we don't recognize, or a place that we don't feel familiar in. So I'm telling God, take me somewhere I've never been, but let me stay who I am. Let that part of me. Because see, I can deal with, okay, Harley, watch this. I can deal with change as long as I'm connected to, or I have a role in what's changing, when it's changing, how it's going to change. God forbid we walk in faith and not by sight. Where that come from? Right? We walk by faith, not by sight. So in order for you to embrace God changing you, it's going to require you, watch this, to close your natural eyes and open your spiritual eyes. And a lot of us don't like change because we can't see naturally. That creates the conflict, because new places often require new thinking. New responsibilities require new discipline. New relationships require a different level of maturity. Greater purpose requires greater surrender. So the real confrontation becomes, can the person I've become to surrender enough to the person God is developing or trying to create? Can the old me relinquish authority, relinquish control, relinquish the desire to be in the know? Can the old me let go and let God? God bless you, Amanda. Can the old me let go, let God, so God can do what he needs to do? Ephesians 4 tells us, it's Ephesians 4:22 and 24. Ephesians, the 4th chapter, the 22nd verse through the 24th verse. This is the NLT. And it reads, throw off your old sinful nature and your former way of life, which is corrupted by lust and deception. Verse 23. Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Verse 24. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy. So Ephesians 4 shows us three movements: the old self, the renewed mind, and the new self, right? So transformation requires that something be put off. You can't say you transform. We coming up, they taught us about the butterfly. The butterfly goes from a worm, it goes into a cocoon, and it comes out with beautiful. That's a beautiful butterfly. Same thing. A baby is conceived in the womb, comes out looking like a hot mess, and then years later you come out, you developed, and you look like Greg, right? You go through that process, and now it transforms you. The problem is a lot of us, we either try to rush the process so we're not developed, or we try to avoid the process, right? Because we don't want to be. We want to be renewed. We just don't want to be renewed and not be in control. So tonight we're not attacking, the present you. We're just going to examine. I don't want anybody to get offended. We're just going to examine the current you, and I'm hopefully going to give you, a perspective that you can look at the present you and see, are you sabotaging the future you? So point one, present me was formed by something. What do I mean by that? Romans, the 12th chapter, the second through the third verse, Romans 2 and 3, the Message Bible says, don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what he wants from you, quickly respond to it. Unlike the culture around you, always dragging you down to its level of immaturity. God brings the best out of you, develops well-formed maturity in love. Verse 3, I'm speaking to you out of deep gratitude for all that God has given me, especially as I have responsibilities in relation to you. Living then, every one of you does, in pure grace. It's important that you not misinterpret yourselves as people who are bringing the goodness to God. No, God brings it all to you. The only accurate way to understand ourselves is by what God is and by what he does for us, not by what we are and what we do for him. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you're not careful, as a matter of fact, you do the analysis yourself. There's characteristics that you possess. Some you portray openly, and some you hold internally, right? But there are characteristics. There are things about you. There are things about your personality. There's mannerisms that you have that you were taught, that you learned, that you that was formed by something that I experienced. So as I stated, we're not trying to condemn present me. We're trying to understand present me, because if I can get you to understand that you didn't wake up this morning with your habits, with your reactions, your fears, your insecurities, your attitudes, something helped form them. And the truth, I'm trying to get you to understand or accept the truth. The truth is, a lot of y'all are possessing or portraying, characteristics of all the trauma that you've experienced in your life. And then you wonder why people are looking at you, with the poop face, looking at you, trying to figure out, like, is you for real? You're the only one that can't see how ugly you really are. You don't care about what you say to people. You don't care how it comes out. You don't care how it affects them. You don't care who heard you say it. And then some of y'all got the nerve to go up to these gospel programs on 4 days later, 3 days later, sometimes 24 hours later, and 24 hours ago you was cussing people out on live. Now you up in the church talking about come on and give God some praise. And I start going to this program because I sometimes want to just stand up and ask them when they're gonna start. I'll start giving God praise when you start demonstrating that you're giving God a praise. Don't come in here, telling me to stand up and shake my neighbor's hand. I'm not doing all that. What you ain't gonna do is tell me what to do. Because hey, I'm not doing all that because I know that the life that you're living is not a life that I want to pattern myself after. So don't ask me to do the things that you do because I don't want to look like you. I don't want to praise like you. I don't want to worship like you because the authenticity of your worship and your praise is not something that I want to be connected to what I'm demonstrating. So watch this. Something helped form them. Some of us learned to shut down because talking never worked. Some of us learned to fight because vulnerability felt dangerous. Some of us became controlling because unpredictability frightened us. Some of us stopped trusting because somebody mishandled our trust. Some of us learned to expect disappointment because disappointment became normal. And sometimes when we know when we think we know ourselves and our personality starts to respond to what we've experienced, we make excuses for what we're demonstrating because we don't like being held accountable. Matter of fact, I'm going to do what I want to do. Why? Because the church hurt me. I'm going to do what I want to do. Why? Because Lady Palmer hurt me. I'm going to do what I want to do. Why? Because you hurt me. Everything is always a cause and effect, and you're never the cause. And watch this. Some of y'all have adopted being the effect or being the response to what the trauma that you've experienced with no accountability. Because even though I've experienced this thing, even though I've been hurt by this person or this organization, does not release me from the responsibility of that the choices that I make today, the decisions I make today is going to affect the future me later on. It's going to affect you. That's why we have to be careful with statements like, that's just who I am, or it is what it is. Y'all hear what I'm telling you? So what explains me does not automatically have permission to continue ruling me. Yes, you were hurt. Yes, you were disappointed. Yes, you were lied to. Yes, you were taken advantage of. Yes, you were abandoned. Yes, you were all these different things, but it does not give you the excuse to stay the victim. And you got to be careful with that because that's a spirit. You ever been around somebody and every time you talk to them, they're always the victim. I even got to the point where I had to ask God to forgive me because I stopped counseling couples because they would come to me for my time, but they didn't want my knowledge. They didn't want me and my wife paid. Oh my God, we paid for the anointing that we have. We paid. Y'all see us and y'all, oh, they're a nice couple, they're a power couple. Yeah, but you don't know the homework we had to do. You don't know how many battle scars, she and I have. You don't understand the experience or the weight of what it costs to be in this position. But guess what? We don't use it as a crutch. We don't use it as an excuse to stay in a watch this. Yes, I sabotage, my relationship, right? I identify that I sabotage the relationship, but guess what? You don't get to stay there. Because let me tell you something about God's love. God will look at you and say, yeah, I know you're trying to sabotage it. I told someone I can't remember what day that was. I was eating lunch. We was at Fats. And I was talking to, it was Jamal's mom. And I was like, I remember there was a time, it was a season of my life when we talk about being preachers and how everybody want to be a preacher, but people don't understand what it costs. And I used to sin on purpose. I used to self-sabotage. Well, at least I thought I was. I was doing stuff, Lady Palmer, to sabotage. Maybe if I do enough, God will just leave me alone and let me be regular people. Let me be a regular sinner saved by grace, right? And ironically, the things that I was doing to sabotage was actually a part of the process. I had to learn how to be deceptive. I had to learn how to be adulterous. I had to learn how to be sin. I had to learn these things. How else can I help y'all with y'all? Ain't that worse than getting advice from somebody who ain't never been through nothing? You can't talk to me about marriage and I ask the question. My wife can tell you when I hear people talk, when I'm looking at your ring finger, see if you got a ring. 2, I'm gonna go to your page and see what type of content that you have. Because you can't come and check me about what me and Lady Palmer going through, and then I look at your situation and you at every trail ride. And the only time we really see you in church is at a program that you're singing on. So yeah, you can't give me no marital advice. But when people look and they see, oh my goodness, I tell people if I wrote a book on what not to do, that would be a bestseller. I messed up so much, y'all. I made so many mistakes. I'm surprised my wife still look at me the way she does. I'm grateful. I'm blessed. Yeah, y'all understand what I'm saying? So you don't get, yes, you sabotaged it, but God's love is so powerful, Sister Shonda, that he'll see you doing it. And he'll be like, look at this girl. Look, y'all look at it. All the angels, Michael. Hey, look what she did. Look, I done told Tashonda I love her. I done told her that she's forgiven. I done told her that her sins were cast into the sea for forgetfulness, and she's still walking around with a woe is me shirt. So watch this. Something can explain why I react a certain way without giving the reaction permanent authority over my life. I know why I don't trust people. That's the explanation. Therefore, I will never trust ever again. That's the permission. I understand why I became defensive, right? Therefore, I'm never going to let anybody ever correct me ever again. I know why I protect myself. Therefore, I'm never going to allow myself to be vulnerable ever again. So God can help us understand our history without allowing our history to dictate our destiny. Paul is teaching us that. That we have to be transformed through the renewing of our mind. That means God doesn't only change where I'm going, he changes the thinking of the person that's going there. In other words, he don't just change your location, he changes your mentality. So now as you're moving, y'all ever traveled a road that you've been traveling, several times in the past, and you go and you travel and they done changed it up. That access point is no longer there. There's one particularly, me and my wife was going to Marion to watch my son play, and when you go on Kingsburg, remember the hot spot where you used to be able to turn right in front of the hot spot to go to Marion. That road is blocked off now. Now you got to go down a little piece further and make a left. And what I'm trying to get you to see is a lot of times the change or the transformation, it shifts what's familiar. It shifts what's comfortable. It shifts your old reference points. Does it for a reason. Right? But you're so focused on the shift, you're not even able to embrace the benefit of the shift. My wife and I have been through so much, and I'm still focused on the fact that she can't cook rice. Not even realizing, for the past 5 years, she's been cooking perfect rice. But I want to complain, Sister Shonda. It's an inside joke, y'all. You got to come to the little church in the corner to get this. I'm going to complain about her burning the rice. Why? Because it gives me something that connects me to a past trauma. I'm going to complain about the fact that she don't care about me, that she don't love me, that she don't do for me. Why? Because it gives me an excuse to connect myself to a past trauma. See, if I can stay on the past trauma, I can stay a victim. And if I can stay a victim, I can, hopefully I can stay the center of attention. One of the worst things you can do is lie about Greg Palmer, right? Lie about Greg Palmer, and then Greg Palmer, he's so simple-minded. God will tell Greg Palmer to come and bless you. Now you're stuck with an experience or a trauma that's no longer validated. Why? Because Greg, God has allowed grace. We talked about grace. God has allowed grace to erase that. You can't even put that on me no more. Can you imagine, Sister Shonda, you trying to, blame Church of the Redeemed for something, right, that happened when we was at the location in Georgetown. Now watch this. I'm going to show you just how stupid this looks and how silly you should feel. We was at the church. We was at a location in Georgetown, and God was opening doors. God was blessing. We had people that would come, that was traveling, would come into our services. They were looking for a church on a Sunday, and we were there. And so watch this. Now, because I experienced the hurt at the location in Georgetown, now we've since moved. We're at 32 East Main Street in the metropolis of Andrews. We've no longer there, but you're still going to the old location. Why? Because it gives you something to connect to, and this is how you demonstrate that past trauma, Uncle Hadley. I remember when Church of the Redeemed was here, and Pastor Palmer, he didn't let me sing that Sunday. How long ago that was? Oh, that was about 3 years ago. You talk about the new church? No, right here. This right here. This hotel, the one over here by the what's the name of that store, baby? The one over here by the gas station. But no one's there. They don't even go to that. They don't even go there. They don't even worship there no more. I know, but this is where it started. This is where it hurt me the most. So now, instead of you coming to 32 East Main Street and walking in deliverance and walking in healing and walking in new direction, you're going to the old location. Why? Because it reminds you of a past trauma and it validates you staying in a place of disconnection. Yeah, I'm going to make somebody mad. I know, but it's going to be all right. So is there anything, this is this question you need to ask yourself, is there anything you currently call just who I am that may actually be something you learn to become? Present me was formed by something, but the next danger is even greater. Why? Because present me, present me can become so protective of the very thing that God is trying to change. You don't want to let it go. And instead of you looking at it as an opportunity to be elevated, you go into defense mode and you build a wall around it. So now instead of God healing you and delivering you from past traumas, God delivering you and healing you from past relationships and so forth, you connect yourself to it and you solidify it. Like my man be saying, it's solidified. You solidify the past trauma, and then you dig in, as the kids say, you lock in, and you anybody that God sends to try to help you get away from it, to help you get above it, rise above it, now you're on defense mode because you're looking at them like, get from around here. You're gonna get we in trouble. Bring it to the next point. Familiarity can make present me fight transformation. I'm going to say that again. Familiarity can make present me fight transformation. What do you mean? Let's look at the children of Israel. When the children of Israel were brought out of Egypt, right? Egypt is represented, it represented slavery. It represented oppression and bondage. It represented hardship. God answered their cries and delivered them. Matter of fact, watch this. Where we at? Is this it? Is this it? Numbers, the 14th chapter, verse 1 through 4. Then the whole community began weeping aloud, and they cried all night. Their voices rose in great chorus of protest against Moses and Aaron. I'm about to do Aaron peels. But if only we had died in Egypt or even here in the wilderness, they complained. Verse 3, why is the Lord taking us to this country only to have us die in battle? Our wives and our little ones will be carried off as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to return to Egypt? Verse 4, they plotted among themselves, let's choose a new leader and go back to Egypt. Familiarity. So God delivered them from something. God brought them out of something. God restored them, renewed them, right? And because, watch this, the whole thing, y'all, this is what, okay, ding, 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 this is the one that got me. They wanted to go back to Egypt because freedom didn't feel familiar. Freedom was strange to them. Freedom was uncomfortable to them. Why? Because they were so used to being in bondage. And some of us are so used to being traumatized. Some of us are so used to being hurt, taken advantage of. Some of us are so used to being the victim that God has given us an opportunity to be the victor, and we don't like it. Why? Because we ain't used to this. My wife and I have been through, that stage where we both were married before, and we both found ourselves trying to sabotage, not intentionally, but sabotage the what we have. Why? Because this ain't what we were used to. We weren't used to it, And I ain't trying to put nobody's business out there. There's some things that you are experiencing now that you've never had before. I've heard some of my kids even say, Dad, man, you changed. That's what you mean. Man, you used to be tough. And I was sitting and listening, to some of the, I was sitting and listening to some of the horror stories. I was sitting and listening to some of the horror stories my kids used to say about me, y'all. And my kids were mean. Some of the stuff my kids said about me, y'all, I'm like, ain't no way. Ain't no way. But now I'm soft. Now, this version of Gray, this version of Daddy is soft. Because I let my grandkids, I let Nova do whatever she want to do. So here it is. They were saying, let's go back to Egypt because freedom felt unfamiliar. They prayed to leave Egypt, but now because their faith in God was starting to shake a little bit, they wanted to go back to something that, watch this, if I can find it. Did I have it on here? Is it Psalms? Let me see. Is it Psalms? I can't, but there's a scripture that talked about how it is Psalms. Look at God. Look at God. Nope, it's not Psalms. I'm sorry. It's not that Psalms. Anyway, when the people started to recognize that, things had changed, that things had shifted, they wanted to go back to what was familiar. They wanted to go now, even though Egypt was in the story. One translation said that it was horrible conditions for the children of Israel, right? But because being in the wilderness represented change, being in the wilderness represented a level of faith that they weren't familiar with. Being in the wilderness, watch this, as long as they could see Moses, they were good. The long as they could see what God was doing, they were good. But the minute God took them to a place that was unfamiliar for them, in order for them to get from the Red Sea to the land of Canaan, they had to go through something. They had to go through a process. Matter of fact, one translation said that God had to kill a whole generation of them. Why? Because their mindset. Their mindset, Shonda. We can get paralyzed by our mindset. You could be in a good thing and mess it up. Why? Because I remember the last time. My wife and I was dealing with something, and normally, most people, when you're dealing with something, you use it metaphorically, you put up a wall. And I told her, this was years ago now, I told her, we're not even going to tear that wall down. Leave that wall right there. I'm going to go get this chair, and we're going to sit on the other side of this wall together until you feel comfortable enough to come from around it. And that's just how God does us. He does not dismiss our trauma. He don't dismiss the things that we've experienced, but what he's saying is, take my yoke upon you, because my yoke is what? Lighter. I know you've been through some things, but so did I. We ain't even gonna try to compare, but if you take my yoke, let's switch. Let's switch, Sister Shonda. I know you was rejected. Let's switch. Here, you take mine, I take yours. I know you were betrayed. Let's switch. Lady Palmer, I know you were disappointed. Let's switch. I get that. You get this one. I know, and somebody told me I got my wife so spoiled. What they don't understand is that might be true to a certain degree, but because I give her what God gives me. And because he spoils me, she's a benefactor of me reciprocating or returning what I get from God. No, I don't give my wife what she deserves, because grace don't give me what I deserve. That's going to help somebody in a minute, if you figure it out. So the wilderness was freedom, but freedom was unfamiliar. And sometimes familiar bondage feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. I'm going to say it again. Sometimes familiar bondage, sometimes familiar trauma, sometimes familiar hurt is more preferred than unfamiliar freedom. Think about how many times God told you to take a leap of faith to start your own business. God bless you, Lily. God told you to start your own business. God told you to start that ministry. God told you, to cut this person off, cut that person off, and you hesitated. Why? You hesitated because I don't know what's on the other side. I told someone, God gave me an analogy. When God tells men, we are the head of the house. So when God tells us to take that leap of faith, right? Y'all, I want you to use this, analogy. Use this image. We're rocking back and forth, and I'm looking at my children. Okay, y'all, get in sync. Okay, wife, get in sync. Okay, church, get in sync. Okay, cousin, get in sync. Why? Because we're getting ready to jump. But God didn't tell them to jump. He told you to jump. But we're so afraid to be on the other side of that thing without what's familiar to us that we some of y'all still rocking. Waiting for the right time to jump in. Now the person that they're doing the rope, man, you still. All right, hold on, I'm coming. Y'all ready? Come on, hey, y'all ready? We about to jump. And all God told you to do was take that leap. Why? Because see, when you take that leap, on the other side of where you are, there's provision. On the other side of where you are, there's elevation. On the other side of where you are, there's prosperity. There's growth. There's a new mindset. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. God is never going to take you to a new place and allow you to keep your old mindset. You can't put new wine in old skins. Y'all hear what I'm telling you? So the present me begins fighting with the future me because I don't want to experience unfamiliarity. The present me says, at least I know how this works. All right. What is this? God bless you. I'm glad you asked. What is this? This is what this is staying in an unhealthy relationship because I'm already familiar with what to expect from this place, or keeping the same financial habits because I've always lived paycheck to paycheck. Or sometimes, at least I know how this works, is really another way of saying, watch this, I would rather manage familiar pain than trust God with unfamiliar growth. If that ain't, that busts me in the head to the white meat, Leah. That got me. I want change. I want elevation. I want to overflow. Y'all be my overflow. But in order for you to get your overflow, sometimes you're gonna have to, sometimes you gotta let go. God can't enlarge your territory without exposing what's unfamiliar, without exposing what's vulnerable, without exposing a void. He can't. How can he bless you with more if he never undercovers your lack? If he never undercovers what you're missing, if he never undercovers what your deficiencies are. I hope I'm helping somebody, because y'all just watch this. What helped you survive one season may prevent you from developing in the next season. What helped you in the last season, what helped you in your last relationship, what helped you on your last job, what helped you in your last situation, it may be the very thing that's going to prevent you from excelling in the new thing. Why? Because you're going to try to take those old habits, those old techniques, those old strategies. You're going to be. Ain't nothing worse. When I married my wife, y'all, I'm trying to tell y'all, this message bust me up. When I married my wife, I had to learn how to be a husband all over again. I'm talking about day one. But because I allow God to change my mindset, and I allow God to expose my weaknesses, and I allow God to show me where I was vulnerable, and I allow God to show me. As my wife said, I didn't. Watch this. Some of y'all standing in front of the mirror with your eyes closed. Open your eyes. Let the Holy Spirit show you. The wall you built may have protected you once, but now that same wall may be preventing you from having healthy people reach you. The defensiveness may have helped you endure criticism, but now defensiveness keeps you from receiving correction. Isolation may have protected you from being hurt, but now isolation is keeping you from relationships God intends to use. Who am I talking to? This is where the self-sabotage happens. I'm going to jump a little bit. The future me is being formed by the present obedience. The future you is being formed by your present obedience or disobedience. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Because the Bible says that you reap what you sow. That whatever a man sows, that shall he also what? Reap. I sow it, I'm going to reap it. So my wife and I, when we go out, and I ain't trying to brag and tell nobody my business, but when my wife and I go out, we don't tip according to the service that we receive. Now, I know that's probably going to make some people mad. We don't tip according to the service that we receive. We tip according to the seed that we're sowing. Oh, wow. Ooh. We tip according to what we need from God. Why? Because see, watch this. In this position, in this season of my life, I need to take advantage of every opportunity to sow what? Good seeds. Because even if I don't get to reap the harvest, I'm trying to set my family up for residual income. I'm setting my family up for residual reception of what's been sown. Y'all hear what I'm saying? The challenge is, I'm in, and don't get me wrong. It took us a minute to get used to this. As my wife just stated, we go up every year, right? It took us a minute to get used to this, but she finally understood. She finally understood why I was doing it. Because if you go off of the service, we was in Tennessee one time, and I had my kids laughing, and the waitress brought us our drinks with her thumb in the glass. And they got mad because we didn't give her a tip. But now I'm at a place where I understand, like Dr. Charles Murray said, people do according to their understanding. Well, guess what? You don't get to use another person's lack of understanding as an excuse to be disobedient. I don't get to use how I was treated. I don't get to use how I was rejected, abandoned, how I was, played. I don't get to use that as an excuse to be disobedient to what God has called me to do. Why? Because the future me is expecting me to sow virtuously, expecting me to sow prosperity, expecting me to sow enlargement in territory, expecting me to sow a bountifulness. Why? Because it needs to be able to reap the harvest. When my wife goes out and gets in her car and she don't have, I joke about it. I'm gonna have to find me a good husband. My wife, she don't have to. She can, but she don't have to pump her own gas. Right? I don't let my wife drive in a raggedy car. And I ain't talking about the year, make, and model. I'm talking about the condition. Why? Because, like I just stated, whenever you sow, let me get back to that. When you sow in a season of discord, when you sow in a season of lack, when you sow in a season of being at a disadvantage, the Bible says the measure in which you give is the measure that you're going to receive. So if I'm giving in this season unexpectedly, if I'm giving in this season of no intentionality of being acknowledged and noticed, right? God is going to bless my family. It ain't even about Greg. Ain't even about Greg. I got kids. I got 11 kids. I need God to cover all my kids, wherever they are and whatever they're doing, right? So I sow. Why? Because I understand that in this season, the present me is doing one or two things, and this is what I'm trying to get to. The present you is either setting you up for success in the future or setting you up for failure. What I mean by failure is because the Bible says you reap what you sow. So are you putting your future you in a position to where they can reap the harvest of you sowing good? Or are you putting them in a situation where they're going to have to be held accountable for decisions that you made now, that you made today, that you made yesterday, that you made 10 years ago? Are you giving the future you a good foundation? Or are you putting the future you in a position to repeat the cycle? When the children of Israel were brought out of Egypt, the Bible says that God killed a whole generation. Why? Because the mindset of the older people, the mindset of the ancestors or the what's I'm looking for, y'all? The veterans was so contaminated. He was like, ain't no way I'm letting y'all go into the land of Canaan. Because why? Because y'all can turn Canaan into Egypt. Y'all ever seen somebody that never had anything get something and start treating it like they ain't never had it? Huh? When you was in the projects, fighting roaches, fighting rats, right? God put you in a split level, put you in a 4-bedroom house, 3 bathrooms. We ain't got a wait in line to use the bathroom now. But guess what? You go in the house and the bathrooms are nasty. Piss off all over the floor. Trash all over the floor. Tub, dirty. Shower, dirty. Rank. Why? Because your mindset didn't change. So now here you are in the future dealing with stuff the past you did. And then instead of you taking accountability and say, you know what? I did do that. Lord, forgive me. Lord, show me how to fix this. Instead, you go on tour of the Woe Is Me, the Woe Is Me band. Y'all ever been around somebody and you hate to ask them how they doing? Because the first, yeah, man, things just click. My wife can tell you, there's certain times, man, hey, not today. Not today. I'm sorry. I got enough on my plate. I got school. I got Bible study. I got church. Not today. I ain't got it. I ain't got it. You got it. It's yours. Because I understand that everything I do now is going to affect how I see it in the future. So watch this. I knew that I made a lot of bad mistakes. I knew I hurt a lot of people. But I'm now in a place, watch this, not so much because my wife is checking her boxes to make sure that I'm walking on cloud nine. More so because I made sure that my relationship with God is intact, to where I was telling them grace speaks on my behalf. Imagine going to court. Imagine going to court for all your past sins. And grace stands up and says, if it pleases the court, I am here to represent Greg Palmer. I'm here to represent Leah Chan. I'm here to represent Harry Lee. Yeah, but we got some stuff. Harry did this, and Leah did this, and Tashana did this. And he said, I understand all that. But your word says that when we come into Christ, we become what? New creatures. So I have to submit that everything that was done, that Greg did, is no longer his to carry. Why? Because I died for it on the cross. Y'all about to get me excited. I ain't trying to preach. I'm trying to teach. Now, I got to go. I want to show you this. All right. So this is present me versus developing me, right? I did a little comparison. So present me is a person that I recognize. Developing me is not somebody imaginary. In other words, it's not a fake person. It's a real person. Present me, the person shaped by my experiences. Developing me, because of those experiences, I'm imperfect. Present me, my habits. Developing me, the person being formed as I become more like Christ. Now watch this. Look at the present you side. So you got habits, fears, defenses, comforts, history, and current thinking. Now, when you look at the developing side, it's left blank intentionally. Why? Because God is still writing those spots. What are you going to allow? What are you going to be able to put on the developing you side? Yes, I understand you have fears, but because now I'm more and more like Christ, I understand that the Bible tells me that God didn't give me the spirit of fear. Yeah, I understand, that I was hurt and I was rejected and people took advantage of me. But now I understand, because I'm more like Christ, that vengeance is mine, says the Lord. I understand that, I like this position that I'm in. It's comfortable. It's not the best. I like where it is. But then I go, on the other side of the developing me that's learned some things that he says that what? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will. Y'all see where I'm going with this. When you get to the place where the developing you, because y'all see how the present me has about all the spots filled and developing me is still empty. What are you going to let God write in your spot? What are you going to let God conform you to? Is the present you? We're going back to that conversation. Is the future you angry with the present you? Or is the future you looking at you like, thank you. You did that. What are you doing? Are you a good steward with what God is giving you now? Because if you plant seeds now, you'll reap the harvest later. What are you doing to prepare the future you to go back with God? Are you having your fun, living your best life? And you're going to leave the future you? I just told you, me and Lady Palmer have been married for 79 years. 79 years, 11 months, and 23.59 hours. And I'm going to wait to year 80 to tell her I got to go find me. I gotta find me. And I'm trying to tell you, one thing you got to realize, when you go back to that list, let me go back to it. When you go back to that list at the top, it said the person I recognize, that's the present you. Well, guess what? The developing you that ain't somebody that's invincible. the present you, and the developing you in the same car, taking the same journey. What are you doing? Are you sabotaging the future you, or are you setting up the future you to be able to go back with Christ? Lord help me, Jesus. That hurt my little heart. Because when I had to look in the mirror and look at what I was doing to contribute to the destiny of the future me, it wasn't pretty. That's why I'm able to look at my enemies and not have contentment in my heart. I pray for them. That's why I'm able to look at people that I know took advantage of me, and I pray for them. That's why my wife and I can go into a restaurant and pay for somebody's food and walk out and tell the waitress, don't tell them who did it. Y'all gotta. I'm done. But y'all gotta start looking at this thing for what it for what it is. Are you preparing the future you to receive well done, thy good and faithful servant? Or are you setting the future you up to hear, man, get out my face? Paraphrasing. Go, you know what? Since you want that, living your best life, keep living it. Y'all hear what I'm saying? So I hope this blessed you. I hope this blessed you. Next Sunday, 5th Sunday, we're going to be celebrating our musicians. So we're going to go live. We're going to go live, but we're not going to be bringing the word. We're just going to fellowship and enjoy the Levitical calling on these young men's lives. But if I helped you, if this word blessed you tonight, please, man, please, sir, put it in the comment section and share this word with somebody. Are you sabotaging the future you? Is the present you sabotaging the future you? Is the present me sabotaging the future me? It's a simple question. Simple question. God bless you. Until next time.